Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and it's great to have Ira here. There's somebody that has taken on this mission of creating a platform that can really arm content creators and people that produce their own content with all the different suites of things to enhance content to make it as professional and high quality as possible, while also being affordable and being able to democratize this access to these types of assets and digital assets and resources has been something that the industry has needed for a long time. You've taken upon yourself to really build something out that can service this need, and you've helped a lot of creators in that, because you've done this. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, where did your passion for entrepreneurship and business leadership come from, and like why specifically the creative space? Like, why did you pick this specific avenue? Were you into like content creation or beforehand?
So I'd say I'm more of a creator than an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
It came from the creator side actually. So I'm a creator first. I was doing video since a very young age. Self-taught. Was working in video production. So being like a full-time filmmaker, as like an editor, as a cameraman, did a lot of different things. And actually it came not from me really wanted to sort of build something, more of like well, I'm using these services, I would rather have something a bit better, and I think like I can build something better, and I think I have good friends who can help me do it. Let's start working on it and see where it lands. um and that thing grew into a bigger, I'd say, project, company, initiative that I ever could have imagined back then. But it developed. We developed over time. I developed over time. Became more of an entrepreneur and fascinated with the business side of everything, with the product side of everything, with the culture of building a company. But it started from being a creator who wanted a better tool. So yeah, creator first.
Mhm. So what did the first version of the platform look like, and how did you kind of get it going? Did you need like friends and family to help you out? Did you kind of fund it? Did you just have the skills internally to build it up?
So it was actually, we were lucky enough that the initial idea was simple enough so we can sort of build it on our own. So it was me thinking about it, next day telling a good friend who's a very talented musician. The first thought was, let's make like an unlimited subscription for music and footage for video creators. He was like, I don't fully understand, but I'm on board. I can trust you. Then adding another friend who's a musician, because we need a lot of music. And then a fourth friend who's currently my other co-CEO as well, who's a good friend who's doing product and tech, R&D and product on that intersection. And when we looked at it at the project, we're like, okay, we could pretty much build this. Like, we don't need any capital. Um, it's a royalty sort of based model, so we don't need to pay upfront for the content. We can create a lot of our own. We have like a year and a half to work on this. Um, Spend some of our own money on like R&D and development, and launch it pretty much self-funded completely, which is a very fortunate thing to be able to do. I think it's a very specific use case. It's not like we were coming from money and we had the means to do something. So it was relatively low, mostly our work on it. Um, and yeah, and since it launched, people bought the subscription. So everything since then was funded by users loving what we do.
How did you kind of get the first initial people outside of like your own group to start paying for the subscription? Was it just word of mouth? Did you have to market it?
So very intuitively, I was looking at like, where would I hear about something like that? And at the time, it was before like YouTube was starting to get more into like influencers, but it was a bit before that. And I was reading out of blogs that sort of reported on the latest for video creation. And I was like, I think that they would be interested in covering this as a news outlet. So it was completely unpaid. We didn't have a budget, and reached out to a bunch of them. Most of them agreed to write about it. They did. And that, I think, started to get the ball rolling. We did like an announcement, and then like gave away of a few songs for like a newsletter wait list, and people signed up for that. And yeah, and again, 4 people working on it. We didn't need too many subscribers at the beginning to actually have enough to continue to build this. So I think the first like year was like 15, 20 people subscribed a day, but that was $200 times 15 times the whole year. That's a lot of money for 4 people working on this to reinvest in the company.
Mm-hmm. So, you have a ton of digital assets on the platform, Ira. You have, I think, like 2 million was the last number that I heard. How do you determine like which assets we should pick for the platform? Like, what's the process into having them being created or bought for Artlist? And how do you like determine which ones are the best ones? I'm sure you get tons of different assets
Yeah.
offered to you.
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, we're big believers in quality over quantity, but I think we'll even more than that, big believer in focusing on the actual user value versus like technicalities of like writing a big number on a pricing page. So at the end, what matters is people get true value for what you do. And we believe for what we're doing now, accuracy and experience and quality are more important than quantity. And that was always our belief. Some things, in order to be relevant, requires quantity as well. I don't think we were ever set up to be a competitor to the 1 billion catalog sort of size game. It wasn't our goal. We were an unlimited subscription, very sort of high quality yet cost effective in a lot of ways. So I think we're a different service in that. And I also think we always looked at ourselves as somewhere in between the value proposition of and again in a different market altogether, but between a Netflix and a Spotify. So if you look at Netflix, the main thing you buy Netflix for is the content. The user experience and interface is great, but essentially you want to watch specific shows. So for Spotify, that's not the case because you have the whole catalog, exact same catalog in every other streamer, right? You have exactly the same songs on Apple, Amazon, YouTube. So why would you pick Spotify? It's the experience and brand. And I think we always realized that we're somewhere in the middle, in between those two. So it's a combination because although a lot of what we have is exclusive, it's not exclusive by nature. So it's like a combination of like having great content, a very well thought brand that people can relate to, and then a great user experience. And I think all of these components together create an inspiring and sort of holistic experience for users.
Because there are like sites that are just music, and then there are ones that are just photos, and you're kind of like all of them together at an affordable price. So I think that that's the draw. Like you have everything and it's more affordable.
Yeah, but I think even more specific, I totally agree, but I think even more specific than that, all of them are around one specific user, a video creator. Someone doing video, have a social or commercial online video presence. Either it could be an individual or a huge enterprise. Where a lot of the other ones that try to do multi-assets really just looked at the assets. And some of the ones who just do music or just do footage, they look at sort of the catalog as the business. And for us, the business is the users and our ability to build around them an ecosystem of tools and assets that they would need to use complementing what they do and create on their own. So I think it's like our nature was always focusing around users and not around like specific things that we now provide.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to be like that. So, with AI now, there's just tons of new assets being able to be generated very quickly and very easily. But I think that there's a difference with what you offer. It's very custom oriented. It's designed by human beings. So there's, I think, a good different understanding there. How do you think AI is going to impact your current business, and like where are you most excited about implementing AI?
I think generally it's going to be amazing because who doesn't want new innovation and new tools that bring new value to people. I think AI is a capability and not a value, and you need to look at AI, what it enables and where it generates new type of values. And I think in our space there are many areas where it does. Like I think if you look at AI for footage versus music, they're completely different for video. Because footage is like images very specific. Music searches for video creators, we know are not specific. And I know for a fact that if I would offer generative music in my website, but also at the same time show results for pre-created assets, people won't waste credits on keep on generative because they will see that they get the exact same value and even more from pre-created assets. For footage, sometimes you need that specificness. And I think you have Sora now, which is very exciting and promising. I think everyone knew these type of tools are coming. It's not a surprise. Our sort of approach was always, we're not a tech IP company. We're not competing with AI. We would love to implement it the right way. We think it could be an amazing additive to our platform. So I think generally right now, the only way we can bring assets on is either in footage, for example, go out and shoot them, or create them in a computer using a 3D software or animating software. Generative is a new tool that will open up a whole bunch of content. Things like recycling of content. So if you prompt stuff, you can also host them in a pre-created catalog and save out of the excess prompting that requires a lot of GPUs and money to be spent. So I think we're more than excited. We already have on our back for a long time, like plans to when we can actually implement one of these amazing tools. And hopefully Sora will be available for usage soon and we can start implementing. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, being a service company, it's our job to implement these tools and enable creators to use them as effectively as possible, as connected to the workflow as possible. And companies like OpenAI will focus on the actual sort of technological advancements. That's what they do. They're not direct to consumer. Our job is to take that and create it in a sort of consumer, holistic, user value approach. And I think we're very excited to do so. And we have a ton of ideas and plans around this. So it should be a very awesome complementary ability to our catalogs.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. It can very much be helpful, and that they're not a direct-to-consumer company. That's your job and your
Yeah,
platform.
we weren't building a model of our own that's competing with OpenAI. I don't think. I think that they're going to probably do the best job at this. I think what we need to do is make sure it helps video creators and it create an ecosystem where they don't need to excessively regenerate stuff, and we can be more precise, more helpful, personalized. Help make easy, sort of make the whole prompting process easier and well curated. So there's a ton of stuff needed to be done. I'm sure everyone who've used Midjourney or DALI knows how painful some of these processes are as a sort of service. And yeah, so I think we can improve the service side of this a whole lot.
So a lot of people that use your platform are content creators. There's a lot of content creators out there, and I think the last number I read was that 50% of the youth now in Gen Z they aspire to be content creators. How do you see that your service being offered to more and more of these types of people, and like what are some of the trends that you're kind of seeing now within Gen Z that you want to cater towards more now with Artlist?
So I think generally you in any case need to always be on the pulse of what's happening in terms of like Gen Z and millennials, regardless, on like the latest trends. At the end of the day, if you're in content and especially in video, you need to have the latest, greatest, most up-to-date things around. So if it's like the latest trends on music for TikTok or whatever, you need to be the first on board, and we're always striving to do that. I think in a more broader sense, you need to build a brand that they can relate to, which is a long lasting commitment, I think, in order to do so. And the interesting part is that, like, look at Gen Z as like individuals only, as like the consumer side of our business, is also not the right way to look at it, because a big part of what is our fastest growing enterprise solution is actually fueled by these Gen Z who love us and now being hired to run social for Nike and Coca-Cola and Apple. Because who's being hired to run the Instagram channels for all these major corporations is the people who know how to run social. And I think the realization of the last couple of years in advertisement, organic social work, is let the people who actually succeed in doing this organically do their thing and stay out of the way. And I think supporting that, we need to support them as they become sort of the new leaders in creating and building the new sort of wave of content creation, advertisement, and organic content altogether. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. What have you seen has been like the best for customer acquisition? Like you guys do a good amount of like, ads on YouTube, on places where these content creators are. Like what has generally worked best?
So I think it really depends on the sort of scale and timeline of the company. So when you start, you really, really want people to know who you are, what you do, and
Mm-hmm.
what's the value you're offering them. At a certain point, you start to get to a position where, okay, I don't know, a big percentage of our target audience already know who we are and what we do. And then you shift more towards like branding and sort of what your brand stands for and what values you bring on a more sort of soft, subconscious level. Um, I think we're year over year growing our sort of influencer marketing, micro influencer budgets. Really believe in that. Really believe it, like I said, in letting them do their thing, choose people who actually love what we do, relate to our product, and let them sort of say what they think, what they feel about us in a very genuine way. Uh, and then I think outside of that is doing shifting more towards like less I say direct pure performance type work, and a bit
Mm-hmm.
more like around like the artists that fuel the catalog,
Oh.
learning people stuff that they can actually use in their creation, so be thought leaders. And yeah, so I think that's the biggest change, and obviously that is supported by traditional Google search, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram ads that you obviously still have to have.
Mhm. So it just shifts to more like highlighting who's on the platform and what you can do with it because you already have an existing customer base at that point.
Yeah, and also like once you feel like you can start spending money not directly telling people who you are and what you give them, then
Mm-hmm.
you need to figure out, okay, I want to create, in my messaging something that's long lasting, that shows sort of what makes us different in a more down to the core way, and not like we offer music footage for video. Like, no, we stand for quality. We stand for putting artists at the heart of what we do, innovation, collaboration. So all these things can sort of surface up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is it like having, another co-CEO and working with somebody alongside that? Like how is it divvying up like responsibilities and having someone else that's in the decision making with you?
So I think first of all, the way I look at it, again, I have no experience working as a one CEO, so my experience is limited. But I would say I think the benefits that I see are first that by core, this is teamwork. Like even at
Mhm.
the highest level, there's not an individual sitting in a chair need to make and take responsibility for a single call. And by definition, if you're already a team, then letting more people into the team is easier on a sort of management level, but that sort of trickle down to the whole organization, which I love. Um, I think it needs to be based on trust and understanding of what you're strong at and what your partner is stronger. But if you look at a lot of companies, at least that I've experienced, even when there's one CEO, usually there's one more person that's like closest to the CEO that practically run half of the business. It could be a COO, a president, a CTO, depending on the company.
Mhm.
And so I think it's not that far from most companies when you actually look at like how they operate on an actual basis. Having two people, because people need someone to sort of bounce the big ideas, big thoughts with.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, for us, it's been working great. I don't think we ever had like a true real conflict, which I'm fortunate to say. I think we're very different and know like I said, our weaknesses and strengths. Um, so yeah, so for me, it's a great experience, but I think it's a very, very personal, dependent sort of situation.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good to hear. And I think that, like you how you mentioned, it creates this like you already have to balancing responsibilities there. You're more open to having more people onto the team. I think that's a good way to look at it too, and probably is helpful.
Yep.
So just the last question I have. So what do you kind of aspire to accomplish over the next like 5 to 10 years? Like what are some of the more short-term goals and long-term goals that you have?
Um, I think if we can continue the momentum we're already in, we're at an amazing position to sort of be a true sort of leader in enabling creation. And I think we're already sort of there, but I see us being like synonymous with some of these complementary things that content creators need. And I really want to see us being able to in a smart way integrate AI and ride sort of and get with what's happening in a way that's sustainable and makes sense. And I think we have a very clear vision of what that look like. Um, so yeah, so I think it's sticking to the core and always going back to like what are users' needs and wants, and what current technology, ecosystem, content landscape is available for us to be the best at offering that. And I want to see us continuing to succeed in making these choices throughout the next 5 or 10 years. Because if we do, um, this is on its way to becoming like a very, very big company. It's already a very big company. We're almost like 500 employees. But I think the future is super bright for anyone who's dealing with content creation and with
Mm-hmm.
video presence. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, building a good company is not thinking of one great idea and then executing that idea. It's about making a million good decisions, not individually, like as a company, the employee, your team, employees, staff. And so, yeah, so I want to see us continuing to make these great decisions going forward. And I think we have the right people and momentum to do so.
Yeah, that I definitely agree. And I would like to see that too. And at your 500 or so people now, I think there's so much more to be done in the content creation space, and you guys have a lot more to offer there. So definitely excited to see Artlist continue to scale. And who knows, could be a public opportunity, a going public opportunity down the line. They would be exciting to watch too. And I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Ben.